Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. Today I will be breaking down the Squadron 42 monthly report. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support. Cannot do this without you, and it is truly appreciated. So as we know, Squadron 42 is just in the polishing and optimization phase. It is feature complete. So let us kick off with the AI content team. They progressed with the Shuan Station content for Chapter 5, with a focus on the main hangar, security, transit stations A and B, social hub, and main bridge, which includes working on the utility, deck, bridge, and engineering crews, and the security, tram passengers, hub patrons, and vendors. They also continue to focus on improving a variety of personnel locations and lockers, specifically NPCs approaching lockers, changing out their base outfits, entering cubicles to shower, and then returning to their lockers to get dressed again. So they're really creating this living, breathing environment, and when all of these kinds of NPC actions come to the verse, it will make those locations feel so much more alive and real. Next, we have the AI features team, who continue to polish the tech used to fire arced rocket pods. It says this system involves equations that have multiple variables like angle of throw and speed, and a range of solutions that need to be evaluated. Also, on top of the arcing solution, collision checks must be performed, which repurposes existing tech created for grenades and other arced fire weapons. Also, finer polish of behaviors in levels is currently underway to ensure the details of animations and systemic behavior form a cohesive whole. Now, moving on to the AI tech team, they continued on cleaning up the ability for multiple NPCs to use ladders simultaneously when moving in the same direction. The transit system received upgrades to make the use transit logic smoother and more robust when handling fails, retries, and fallbacks, as NPCs will eventually be able to navigate on a transit system on a tram, as they need to come and go from landing zones just like players do. And the same kind of applies for elevators. For NPCs using elevators, the flow was improved to create a more efficient sequence. For example, characters won't go back and forth anymore and will instead board the elevator directly, eliminating unnecessary waiting or interim positions. Now, as I say, it is going to be so great when the servers in the persistent universe are more stable, and this kind of tech, behaviors, traits can come in or at least function as intended, as having NPCs capable of doing everything the player can will add a lot of potential to not just feeling like you're in a populated area, but for different gameplay reasons as well, like bounty hunting, where your bounty can actually jump away or get out of their ship and ride a transit elevator somewhere. Passenger transport, of course, being able to transport NPCs from one location to the next. Piracy, for the same sorts of reasons as bounty hunters, being able to have pirates board your ship and fend them off. And security, having a proper security element that are capable of doing exactly what the player can. And that's just to name a few. Now, for spaceships and the AI tech team, they focused on bug fixes and improvements specifically for combat scenarios and AI traits, the latter of which helps to influence AI logic, for example, allowing NPCs to prefer certain behaviors over others. And this allows the designers to balance gameplay based upon the enemy faction players are fighting, with existing traits including the strafer override, which forces the pilot to always choose the strafer tactic, and speed freak, which always chooses to boost and has slightly higher speeds. Now, I'm not sure about these specific traits, but I know for 322.1's Master Mode Arena Commander environment, they have included a lot more AI behaviors and abilities, so it'll be interesting to see just how effective these NPCs are becoming, because Arena Commander does not suffer from the usual server frame rate degradation. Now, next up we have the animation team. They further refined the feel of the AI in a number of chapters to better tell the story. They also worked on malfunctions, prone, EVA, and several boss fights, and further refined combat animations for different enemy types. Much of this we will see roll out with 323. The animation team are currently implementing several new story beats to better align with how levels feel, and this is supported by the mocap team via focused shoots that quickly add improvements to the game. And finally, on the facial front, the team is hard at work implementing additional lines for Old Man Colton to add more value to the player's relationship with him. And for those that don't know, Old Man Colton is basically Mark Hamill's character in the Squadron 42 campaign. You and him are wingmen together, and will be flying sorties together as well. Now, moving on to the Environment Art team, they had strike teams progress with Chapter 1, 4, and 5, with the team saying, "We've pushed a lot of the core development teams into delivering these chapters alongside the design teams, and it's been rewarding to see the progress we've been making together on these locations." Also, location-wise, passes were made on the interior hangar, security, social, and bridge sections of the Archon Station, while the white box metric art for store interiors was converted to final. An Archon Station is this huge multi-kilometer length mining station owned and ran by Shuan, which seems to be the main focal point for the first episode of Squadron 42. Now, the Javelin received a complete pass this month, including intact and damaged interiors, a full lighting pass, and dynamic dressing that reacts to the damaged version of the ship. Plus, they continue to update the Javelin's exterior to a new, higher standard for capital ship exteriors, and once complete, they'll move on to the damaged version. And it's great hearing about all of this work for capital ships when they come into the verse alongside the Master Mode's changes. Fighting these in space or in atmosphere is going to be pretty insane. And Cloud Imperium are already doing tests with the Idris, having it fully manned with a full interior, manned by the actual developers, asking players to not necessarily destroy the ship, but board it and take it over. Anyway, it also says that locations in Chapter 4 were worked up to a high standard, including the interior of some asteroid truck stops and an abandoned ship. Now, talking of this asteroid truck stop, there was some work on the progress tracker for asteroid facilities that came to a close late last year. So that work could have been for this, but of course when the time is right, asteroid facilities, locations, buildings built inside asteroids, and even player asteroid hangars will come to the persistent universe. Now finally, for the Environment Art team, the Odin system was updated with the new Sun Nebula that can be seen now during downtime. Now that sounds pretty nice. Also, I do feel that Cloud Imperium are planning on bringing the Odin system to the verse somewhat soonish after the release of Squadron 42 Chapter 1, as the Odin system is connected to the Nyx system, which, as we know, the Nyx system will be coming once the Pyro system releases. So with all of the work going on for Odin within the Squadron 42 campaign, it kind of makes sense to continue that reach, with them opening up Pyro, Nyx, and then Odin, maybe as a 4-system cross, and then branching off any other jump points that they are able to. Just a theory there. Now, the core gameplay team is next, and it says polish on the Starmap's features continue, including new box outs to give information about the selected location and what services it provides. It also gives an option to set quantum routing, drawing a route between the current location and destination, which is pretty much what it did on the previous map, but hopefully doing it a lot better. Now, the box out information does sound like a great addition. Being able to set detailed information about the services that each location in the verse provides will be somewhat imperative when navigating a route, seeing what amenities are on offer where, so that when you do navigate a route, you know where you can stop off for what you might need. Now, the character customizer gained further improvements, allowing the players to save and load in their characters, which also enables the backing up and sharing of customized character appearances, and a randomization function was also worked on to give aesthetically pleasing results. And finally, the core gameplay team worked alongside the back-end team to help with data serialization and compress the data size as much as possible to make sending character data to other clients as efficient as possible. Now, for the gameplay story team, they have been improving scenes across different chapters, and alongside this, the team communicated with stakeholders to establish a proper standard for the grip setup for helmets, with them currently batch updating helmet animations to use the new setup, which will unblock a lot of long-standing issues. Now, this is very exciting to hear. Firstly, by stakeholders, I don't think they mean Cloud Imperium private investors. I think what they're referring to here are just other teams who have a part to play in this work. I could be wrong, but that seems more logical. But this is great news. as it will mean that soon we will be finally able to take our helmets off in the persistent universe, physically hold them as a helmet and inspect them, placing them down anywhere we want, rather than them instantly turning into a box. And the same goes for the rest of the armor as well. So arm armor, core armor, leg armor. Eventually they won't be just a random box that appears, they will be the physical item that you can place on a table, on the floor, and although other armors weren't addressed here, at least we know helmets are getting worked on, and by them doing it on batch, it should be a good chunk of them, rather than just one or two. Now for the level design team, they started the year where they left off, striving to close out the Archon Station's social areas, and in particular a walk and talk section presents particular challenges, including the potential for players to just leave their guide and explore the station. But for those wondering, they do want players to have a lot of freedom to explore and find collectibles and kind of reward you for doing so, but of course you are serving in the military, so you won't be able to head off and go to Stanton or elsewhere, but the local mission areas you will be able to explore to your heart's content. Now the devs also closed out outstanding issues on the social sections of Chapter 1 and continued to focus on the Idris interstitials and a key scene in Chapter 8. Plus work was done on conversations between the Idris crew, who refer to the player and current in-game situations. Now for the narrative team, they further refined the narrative elements of Squadron 42, for example, identifying a few key moments where additional loudspeaker announcements would help to drive a sense of urgency. Plus the team made passes on various UI elements, providing new text as needed, alongside revising text to provide further clarity or impact. Work also continued on the game's collectibles, with the team coordinating with artists to create memorable and eye-catching things to discover, which I really like the sound of. I am, not in real life, but in games, I am a bit of a knick-knack collector, displaying stuff on shelves, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can find. Now finally, the team delved deeper into how players will learn information on the game's lore through the Galactopedia entries as we naturally progress through the story. And as we know, the Galactopedia will become a Mobiglass app one of these days, hopefully for 3.23, potentially a little later, but all of the lore that is on the website will eventually be in the Galactopedia that you can access in-game as and when you want to. Now, moving on to the UI team, they continued to polish the vehicle UI, including getting some of the holographic elements to appear on physical screens for the lower tech ships. They also improved the display of quantum travel information and polished elements of the turret's UI. Now, it will be really nice to see in the verse the bespoke manufacturer ship HUDs and MFDs. I don't know if all of the bespoke manufacturer HUDs are coming in for 3.23. It is more likely just going to be a single visual improvement change with these manufacturer-specific versions coming later down the line. But either way, cleaning up our HUDs and our MFDs and making them far more functional than what they are now is going to be a big win. Now, regarding FPS UI, a pass was started to bring the lens up to standard now that the visor is in a good state, with the team saying, "We've been working on some updated concepts to give it a fresher look, while also including some of the improvements we created for the visor." Now, personally, I am really eager to learn more about the lens. It's more like a contact lens, as at first it sounded like it wouldn't be removable and continuously display a slight bit of information about the player's health or whatever. But since I saw that they had a stand for the lens or the contact lens in the Microtech flagship store, it did get me wondering if A, will we be able to take them off entirely and have literally zero UI, and B, will there be contextual lenses as we see for the helmets, giving us a little bit more of a subtlety with our UI than putting a helmet on. I really hope that's the case. I think it would be a great idea, but we haven't had confirmation or denial yet, so I'm still waiting to find out. Now, finally, we have the visual effects team, who continued to support the art, design, and cinematics teams with their visual effects requirements. This included updating the dynamic fire effects to work in additional locations to accommodate new gameplay scenarios. And I'm really looking forward to getting fire in the PU. I think tackling fires of all types, of all scales, will be a lot of fun, especially with a fire extinguisher, as I was a big Roscoe McQueen fan. Now finally, the team also created a new rota system to make sure the number of visual effects related data errors was reduced to 0, and each week an artist is picked to work directly with the embedded VFX QA team member to ensure the existing bug list is kept 0 week to week, which I think is a great idea, and hopefully this is the sort of thing that other teams can do as well. So there you have it, that was January's Squadron 42 monthly report. It is always great to hear about all of these systems that is getting polished, getting made final, plus knowing that much of this stuff will be coming to the persistent universe either in 3.23 or just soon, sometime this year essentially. But with that said, I will now get to work on the Persistent Universe monthly report, and if you do appreciate my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. It is much appreciated. If you want to come and hang out and chat all about Star Citizen and watch me play Star Citizen, do head over to twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother. The link is in the description below. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, does the channel a huge favour, and tick that notification bell if you'd like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, massive thank you to my channel members and patrons. Cannot do this without you guys, so thank you for the support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.